So we open up the episode with Floki back on Iceland. He's been tripping out mainly from his probably infections, fevers, other things like that, and is becoming increasingly more convinced that this island is a place of the gods meant for him and his people. So I doubt it'll be very long until we start seeing more people coming over Iceland as he ventures back and spreads the great news he's got from his time spent here and hallucinations he's seen. But that's pretty much all we get from Floki this entire episode. Next we move to this strange but interesting relationship between Astrid and King Harald that have been developing quite nicely and quite slowly over the last 2 episodes. Even though Astrid was taken there against her will and this relationship is going to get forced on him, he's got this power over him and this threat over her, she's a prisoner there, you can see every single time he brings up the power, the connection, the life that they could have. There's a little twinkle in her eye if she's thinking about it. She's like, this is something I actually could go for. Like, I have no other better situation. I can either make the best of what's happening now, or live the really shitty life of a prisoner that has reluctantly been there. And the strange thing is that if Astrid actually did join with him and invested her life goals and motivations to back him, that would be way more of a threat to Lagertha than King Halberd. King Halberd is a little bit drunk, a little bit off tilt, not exactly the smartest or best person to be fighting Lagertha, but Astrid has that oomph behind her, this potential of a character that really could take down Lagertha. She knows everything that Lagertha has around her. She knows how it is to be a strong, independent woman trying to rise in power, and she can use that knowledge to try and wiggle under her skin and destroy her. So it will be really interesting to see how the relationship between King Halberd and her goes forward. It's possible she stays true to Lagertha and doesn't betray her, but if she does, I feel like she'll become the more person in charge, not King Halberd. She'll be the one leading the armies, she'll be the one making the plans, she'll be the one making the real change if she does join up with King Halberd. Then we move to Ivar with his personal ego inflator. Something we see more and more with Ivar is that a lot of the really ruthless, harsh actions he does, his resolve for power, everything about how he defines himself, comes from all these people feeding him really shitty ideas, blowing up his ego, making him feel eccentric, making sure he feels like he's important. He's living with pain, chronic disease, he's angry, he's been isolated, and he gets fed more and more that he needs to be bigger, he needs to be stronger. These are super bad influences, making him a ruthless, callous person who kills for fun. Now I'm sure Ivar has a lot of those deep-rooted things inside of him that are horrible, but when we look at the way his mother raised him with his overprotective, manipulative, selfish upbringing, the influence of his father putting this huge destiny and importance on his weight, making him feel like he's superior to everyone, and these characters always inflating his ego, saying he needs to be more and more and more, and it makes this whole idea in his head of who he is way more important, way more out of proportion, that leads to super bad actions and really arrogant, egotistic behavior. Though props to that serving woman, because she just dabbed out of that sacrifice. So we see with Bjorn that there's a wanderer person we saw give advice to Ragnar, who guided him to Paris and told him about the wonders there, has now teamed up with Bjorn and helping him, and he gives them the idea of being traders to explore the land, to see that kind of stuff rather than coming as Vikings and raiders. One that makes a really, really interesting storyline because they get to explore this kind of world in a non-threatening, confrontive way. Also, it means a large amount of his fleet are heading back to Kattegat, and that could be really used to help out Lagertha in her wars to come. And now we get this smashing battle. People are dying and fighting and blowing up, with Vikings setting traps and death pits, and everything is chaotic, mud's flying everywhere, death, chaos, absolute ruin. Ivar's coming in like a madman, swinging that psychopathic axe, absolutely crazy. It's a perfect example of that Viking brutality they use to scare the living shit out of their enemies. Like when we saw Ragnar have the heads on the boats when they cruise towards the armies in a way that just kind of just destroys their morale. The spikes, the death, the chaos, the laughing, everything gets to them. We get this brilliant third-person view of Adolf fighting, helping his sons, seeing the chaos and absolutely immense death that's happening around him. The production value is absolutely immense for this fight scene, and they promise us so many more just like it throughout the season, so I have really high expectations for what we're going to get this season. I was really impressed on the way that they managed to make it so we could still understand how the fight was going, who was winning, what traps they set and how they worked, as well as still giving us that feel of the chaotic, crazy, what's happening, things are flying everywhere, that the people would have felt when they were in that situation, in this death trap of a maze of a city. But saying that, they did abuse the living shit out of Shaker Cow, especially with the Ivar scenes and the close-ups on him, how he's like just shaking with pure adrenaline flowing through his body as he's just trying to exercite his immense anger and just passion towards trying to kill these people. It really worked, even though it was just so in your face. So sadly this time we don't actually get a proper confrontation between Ivar and Hickman, but it's definitely foreshadowed something to happen in the future. So hopefully we'll get another smashing battle, and then we'll get to see those guys go right at it as their pure fury fights each other. This entire scene and fight was just a highlight of the whole episode. It was really well done, the production was there, we could see the pure energy of the characters. Really, really liked this scene.
We all did very well. Why do you argue, huh?
I'm not arguing.
Now that pretty much sums up the entire tone of this petty fight between the brothers. I'm not arguing. It's been clear right from the start that Ivar wants to take charge of the army, he wants to make his destiny and take the power of the situation, and Uber is in his way. Now an interesting thing that has come out of this is all the hashtag Team Ivars and the like Team Uber and stuff like that. Now we're definitely pushed by the narrative, the way we see the structure, the kind of morals that we have modernly towards backing Uber and everything he's doing because, he wants to settle, he wants to make peace, he wants to do farming. These are modern good values, right? But none of that stops half of my comments being hashtag Team Ivar, which is super interesting. So I want to see how many of you guys are hashtag Team Ivar, how many of you guys are pro Uber. So I'm going to do a poll in my community tab. You guys can decide if you're Team Ivar, Team Uber, Team Björn, or Lagertha if you really want to go for that. It'd be super interesting to hear what you guys think about it. Also make sure when you vote on the poll, you also leave a comment telling us why you voted for whatever you did. I want to accumulate some of the answers, have like a potential little debate thing, like a video between Team Ivars, Team Uvers, see what you guys' interesting points of views are, and maybe some of the best comments I will give giveaways to related to Vikings. We'll do more on that later, but make sure you guys go to that poll in my community tab. I'm not sure if I can link on this video or not, but go over to that, vote for whatever team you're in, and tell me why. Okay, so when we have Uber and Vixid go over to the English, looking for peace, to settle, make terms, whatever, and then Hickman comes and he's like, and beats the living shit out of them and sends them home packing. That was hilarious, the editing of it was really well done, and the way they revealed the information in the scenes in a really disordered order, and it also highlights the first kind of conflict in leadership between Hickman and Adolwulf. This episode definitely had a lot of themes about leadership change, who's going to be in charge, both sides. And this episode, Ivar won on the Viking side, kicking Uber way back to Kennegadd, where he's going to have a long time dispute with him for quite some time now over the leadership and reputation of the Lothbrok name. But I feel like next episode is when we're going to get the same kind of thing with English, where we see this kind of conflict in leadership between Hickman and Adolwulf, and it's probably going to be Hickman leading, because religious fanaticism is a lot better selling tool than just obey your king. Thanks for watching. Make sure again to check out that poll and tell me whether you're Team Ivar, Team Uber, whatever. That'll be really interesting to see what you guys say. Also, if you haven't checked out some of my other Viking stuff, like the preview for the next episode that's going to be released very, very soon, then make sure you check out all that stuff. And I love you all. See you later.